Leading up to the summer of 2022, Ashley Grayson had built a reputation as an influencer, and she described herself as a course creator, philanthropist, a bestseller, and an 8-figure business coach. Grayson ran a successful online business from her home in Dallas, Texas, offering to teach others how to turn their skills into courses as well. Grayson's social media presence had resulted in several feuds, most notably with a woman from South Haven, Mississippi, who operated a business similar to hers. They never met, but Grayson suspected that her rival had created fake online profiles which she used to criticize her. In August of 2022, Grayson asked a Memphis woman with whom she'd worked in the past to fly to Dallas so that they could discuss a business opportunity. Upon arriving in Texas, the unnamed woman and her husband were offered money by the influencer to kill 3 people. The targets were her Mississippi-based online rival, Grayson's ex-boyfriend, and a Texas woman who'd recently made negative comments about her online. Each of the hits would potentially earn the couple at least $20,000. On September the 10th, in a video-recorded call, Grayson offered them an additional $5,000 to expedite the murder of her Mississippi nemesis. Later in the month, the Memphis couple sent the influencer a photo of police lights from an unrelated incident in their home state. Based on the photo, they fraudulently claimed to have tried and failed to kill the target, demanding $10,000, half of the promised amount, for the attempted hit. They flew to Dallas, met with the influencer and her husband, Joshua, and were paid what they asked. Grayson left an abundant evidence trail in the plot, which resulted in her being arrested and charged in the Western District of Tennessee with use of an interstate facility and commission of murder for hire. Joshua was arrested on the same charges, but he was eventually acquitted. Grayson was found guilty, and in late October of 2024, she was sentenced to the maximum of 10 years behind bars in a federal prison. Number 8. Kathy Vu. On the morning of January the 27th of 2023, Houston police were asked to perform a welfare check at an address in the 1700 block of West T.C. Jester. A neighbor had expressed concerns regarding a Toyota Prius which had been left running inside a garage. An additional complaint involved a dog on the property which had reportedly been barking throughout the previous night. When officers searched the home, 35-year-old Dana Rystel was found dead with multiple gunshot injuries. At the scene, law enforcement came upon several cardboard boxes filled with marijuana packaged in airtight wrapping. Bundles of cash totaling $35,980 were discovered in the freezer. A white Dodge Ram 3500 pickup truck owned by the murdered man wasn't at the home. Also missing was Rystel's friend and roommate, 37-year-old James Martin, who owned the Prius found in the garage. The vehicle was impounded for evidence processing but not subjected to an immediate search. It was determined that Rystel and Martin were commercial marijuana farmers who operated a legal dispensary in Oregon. The Dodge pickup truck was located on January the 30th in southeast Houston. On February the 1st, Martin's body was found in the trunk of the impounded Prius. His remains were wrapped in duct tape, and like Rystel, he'd been shot multiple times. During the investigation that followed, law enforcement identified Polly Phan and Jaden Vu Nguyen, both in their mid-20s, as being responsible for the double homicide. In March of 2023, the police arrested 23-year-old Kathy Vu, a popular TikToker who was Phan's girlfriend. Vu's social media content was focused on working out home decor and relationship advice. In a video posted on the day of the murders, she showed off a laptop that Phan had bought her. Vu wasn't charged with participating in the killings, but with helping to clean up the crime scene. The authorities determined that Vu and Phan were communicating before, during, and after the capital murders. On the evening in question, the young woman had bought trash bags, Clorox bleach spray, hydrogen peroxide spray, and hydrogen peroxide from a local HEB. Bleach and iodine bottles were found in the back of Vu's car, along with the HEB receipt for the purchase of the aforementioned cleaning supplies. The police also found that she had at one point texted Phan saying, "Everything's in my trunk." Following her arrest, Vu denied having had any knowledge of the murders, telling law enforcement that Martin had threatened Phan over a $40,000 drug deal that had gone awry. The influencer claimed if anything were to have happened, it would definitely have been self-defense. She was charged with evidence tampering and released on bond. In the meantime, Phan and Nguyen had fled to Vietnam. By the end of June of 2023, the duo was tracked down and arrested by Vietnamese authorities. They were extradited to the US to face capital murder charges, with Phan arriving back in Harris County on July the 19th and Nguyen on the 21st. Number 7. Jack Doherty. 20-year-old Jack Doherty rose to fame through a breakthrough 2017 YouTube video entitled "I Flipped All These." In line with an online trend at the time, the teen flipped various items, including water bottles and markers. From that point on, his presence in the creator space steadily grew through content focused on various stunts and pranks. He amassed over 15 million YouTube subscribers and numerous followers on other platforms. Doherty, who regularly streamed on Kick, became controversial through his ostentatious displays of wealth, as well as his reckless driving, which resulted in several on-camera crashes. In November of 2023, Doherty uploaded a YouTube video which he titled, "I flipped a golf cart on my girlfriend." After getting behind the wheel with his girlfriend Mackenzie as a passenger, Doherty told his followers, "One's in the chat if I should crash." He then took an abrupt turn which resulted in the cart toppling on its side and landing on Mackenzie. The young woman suffered injuries to her head and back. Doherty, who wasn't hurt, told her, "I literally thought I just broke your neck." He continued filming and drew criticism for seemingly being more interested in getting out of the situation with the cart's owner and generating further content than in his girlfriend, who appeared to be in pain. In March of 2024, Doherty was recorded flipping a Can-Am off-road vehicle less than a minute after he'd gotten it. Later, on October the 5th of that year, the influencer was streaming on Kick while speeding down Florida's turnpike in his $200,000 McLaren 570S. He glanced down to look at chat messages and then hydroplaned, crashing into a guardrail. The front of the vehicle was totaled on impact. One clip showed the streamer pleading for help from bystanders, asking them to break the driver's side window. Doherty kept streaming even as rescuers pulled him out of the vehicle, going as far as asking one of them to hold his camera. The influencer's cameraman, Michael, was a passenger in the McLaren, and the crash left him bleeding from his head. Doherty bemoaned his wrecked car and once again appeared more preoccupied with making content, even asking Michael to continue filming in spite of him bleeding profusely. Both survived the crash and the cameraman got stitches to mend his injuries. Doherty was criticized for his behavior by online users and fellow influencers. Corina Kopf wrote on X, where a clip of the crash was seen nearly 50 million times, "Your friend's face is gushing blood, but you make sure he stays filming from all angles." Nice. In the incident's wake, Doherty was banned from Kick and cited by Florida Highway Patrol for manipulating a wireless communication device while driving. Number 6. Fousey. By the summer of 2023, YouTuber Yusuf Salah Erakat, better known as Fousey, had become a controversial content creator who'd received bans from YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. He was part of the first wave of YouTube pranksters and often criticized by users for his stunts, with some arguing they were dangerous and others believing they were staged. By 2023, fans and fellow streamers suspected that the 33-year-old's mental health was deteriorating, and Fousey himself admitted to such struggles. During a 2023 live stream, he got into a confrontation with fellow content creators Jack Doherty and the Island Boys, Florida-based twins who went viral with their song, "I'm an Island Boy." The tense interaction occurred at Doherty's rental home. At one point, Fousey threw water on Doherty and slapped him twice in the face. As security intervened, the older man stared Doherty down and licked his hand before leaving the property. In August of 2023, Fousey recorded himself walking down a Miami highway while live streaming and ranting about his life. Later on, while staying at the Intercontinental Hotel in Miami, he called 911 claiming that his life was in danger. The call was captured on live stream and it reportedly followed an argument with content creator Gonval.
And the cops. There's a gun to my head right now. There's a gun to my head. Oh, ma'am, he left.
The latter had called Fousey and allegedly threatened him with a gun, believing he was responsible for him getting banned from Kick. An agitated Fousey was seen sitting on the edge of a bed in the hotel room with the 911 operator on speaker. Another person, believed to have been part of his security team, tried to get him to calm down, but the influencer replied, "A guy told me I'm going to die tonight and I'm going to relax." While talking to the emergency dispatcher, Fousey decided to expedite the police's arrival by feigning an attack and screaming, "Help! There's a gun to my head." Sometime later, the live stream captured him being handcuffed by responding officers. Footage showed Fousey screaming at the cops, "Are you going to arrest a Palestinian Muslim who's viral? Are y'all dumb?" The influencer shouted #FreeFousey in an attempt to galvanize his followers into campaigning for his release. The authorities subsequently clarified that Fousey hadn't been arrested but taken to a hospital for a mental health evaluation. Number 5. Rodolfo Marquez. On February the 22nd of 2024, Mexican influencer Rodolfo Marquez was sitting in his girlfriend's car in the parking lot of a mall in Naucalpan. A woman, only identified as Edith N., clipped the vehicle's mirror with her SUV. Marquez, who had nearly 4 million followers on Instagram alone, had become known on social media for being a millionaire child. The 26-year-old, who went by Fofo Marquez or El Fofo, viciously attacked Edith after she suggested settling the minor collision through her insurance provider. As seen in surveillance footage, the influencer landed 2 punches to the woman's face in quick succession, knocking her to the ground. He then kicked her while she was down multiple times before he bent over and punched her in the head. Edith was later recorded with her face covered in blood as she was being tended to by Good Samaritans. 2 men confronted Marquez in the immediate aftermath, but he remained aggressive and tried to kick one of them before he fled in the vehicle driven by his girlfriend. Marquez exhibited no signs of remorse in the incident's wake and chose to travel with his partner to Cancun, unaware that the brutal beating had been caught on CCTV. Prosecutors built the case against him and he was subsequently arrested. A photo taken at the time of the arrest showed him smiling while sitting in a police vehicle between 2 law enforcement officers. Updates from late November of 2024 indicated that he remained incarcerated and was set to go on trial for the charge of attempted femicide. Number 4. Mike Smalls.
I lied to the last Hurricane Helene. In the video, I said that I'm never going to do this again. And for some reason, I'm out here again. What the is wrong with me? Why would I do this again?
As Hurricane Milton swept through Florida in October of 2024, streamer Aiden Ross offered a $70,000 prize to members of the public who would record themselves going out and braving the Category 5 cyclone. 26-year-old Tampa man Mike Smalls accepted the challenge and live-streamed as he set up with an air mattress, umbrella, and pack of ramen noodles near a river. Smalls went live on Kick and was seen being battered by strong wind and rain. Even though he could barely swim, the man told his viewers that if he reached 100,000 views, he would get into the river on his air mattress. He never did so, but as the hurricane picked up, Smalls was forced to hang onto a tree to avoid being blown away. The storm left an estimated 35 people dead and millions without power. Smalls, whose footage went viral, drew criticism for his behavior, which not only endangered his life but could have resulted in official resources being diverted from more serious emergencies. Some described his actions as dumb and a desperate attempt at becoming famous online. The influencer told the BBC that as a social media creator, he had to keep his content edgy for his viewership and that he prioritized safety. Smalls added, "To a degree, I guess you could say it's irresponsible, but for me, I would say it's a calculated banger." He'd also gone out and live streamed during Hurricane Helene on September the 26th of that same year. At the time, Smalls was seen struggling to pitch up a flimsy tent under a bridge. He then recorded himself inside the tent and started screaming for help after a flow of water reached him. Many of those viewing the stream were dumbfounded as to why someone would willingly brave the storm, which became one of the deadliest in US history. Smalls maintained that he was a very calculated person and that he'd taken the necessary precautions to make it home safely. He told a media outlet, "I knew the hurricane was going to be bad, but not that bad in my area if I timed it perfectly." Helene ended up causing 234 fatalities and billions in property damage. One of the clips from Smalls' stream quickly rose to over 11 million views on X. Various viewers highlighted the risks to which the man had subjected himself, including being attacked by alligators or snakes, electrocuted by falling power lines, drowning, or simply getting sick from contact with the murky water. Number 3. Jenny Ambuila. Leading up to the spring of 2019, Colombian influencer Jenny Ambuila had grown accustomed to a life of luxury in Miami, Florida, which she frequently flaunted on Facebook and Instagram. The 26-year-old described herself as a venture capitalist, foreign exchange trader, and social media influencer. She had set up a few businesses, including an ice cream shop and a Forex trading service, but there was considerable discrepancy between the revenue they generated and Jenny's lifestyle. Her social media activity would ultimately become her undoing. The content frequently featured her donning designer goods from Hermes, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, or Dolce & Gabbana. taking shopping trips to Milan and Paris, as well as driving luxury vehicles, including a $300,000 Lamborghini Huracan Spider. In a May 2017 Facebook post in which she showed off the latter vehicle, Jenny wrote, "People assume that because they can't make it, you can't make it either. Prove them wrong." When the authorities investigated the woman, they uncovered a wider-reaching smuggling and money laundering conspiracy, at the center of which was her father, Omar. For years, he'd been working as a mid-level customs officer at the Colombian port of Buenaventura. The authorities learned that since 2012, he'd pocketed at least $600,000 in overseas payments for allowing untaxed goods to enter the country. The money amount tracked by the investigators was believed to have been only a fraction of what Omar had made illegally. He was suspected to have received millions of dollars in bribes throughout the 27 years that he'd worked as a customs officer. He and accomplices were proven to have made purchases that far exceeded their salaries. Omar used some of the money to lavish Jenny and send her to the University of Miami, where she studied from 2013 to 2017 and earned a bachelor's degree in finance. Jenny and her parents were arrested alongside another customs official on March the 29th of 2019, while they were all vacationing in Colombia. Jenny was charged with money laundering, while Omar and her mother, Elba Chara, faced additional charges of aiding smugglers and corruption. Today's topic was requested by Joshua Armijo 3565. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Kane Kongg. On October the 29th of 2023, popular streamer and YouTuber Jack Doherty was attending a Halloween party thrown by fellow influencer David Dobrik in Los Angeles. At one point during the party, Doherty approached 27-year-old Twitch streamer Karina Kopf, who was also an OnlyFans model, and asked her to do a live stream with him. Kopf, who was dressed as a Hooters waitress, declined and walked away. Doherty exclaimed, "Why not? Ego?" As the model brushed him off, Doherty's crew continued live streaming and captured the moment that he was confronted by Chase Gardella, a member of Kopf's entourage, whose costume consisted of 1980s themed activewear. Gardella, who was joined by two other similarly dressed men, accused Doherty of insulting Kopf based on her activity on OnlyFans, telling him, "You can't say that." Doherty didn't deny making offensive comments about Kopf, and as the men argued, they were approached by Kane Kongg, Justin Gosley by his real name. The man was also a content creator with hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers, and Doherty had hired him to be his bodyguard at the party. Kongg weighed nearly 400 pounds on a 6'9" frame and dwarfed the other influencers involved in the confrontation. He got between Doherty and Gardella, tapping the latter on the shoulder and asking, "What are we doing?" Emboldened by the presence of his bodyguard, Doherty began insulting Gardella and his companions. Kopf then arrived at the scene, and as she and Doherty were talking, Kongg and Gardella got more heated, with the latter telling the bodyguard to walk away. Seeing that tensions were escalating, Doherty urged Kongg to chill and turned around to continue his conversation with Kopf. In a split second, Kongg landed a thunderous punch to Gardella's face. The devastating blow, which was captured on live stream, sent the much smaller man flying to the ground. As Gardella scrambled back to his feet, Kopf and a female friend began berating Kongg, and he retorted with threats and insults while backing away, but no further violence occurred. Doherty then shared the video on X with the title, "My security just knocked out a guy live on my kick." The clip gained millions of views, and while most of the users viewing it considered that Kongg had assaulted Gardella, some suggested that the latter was asking for it. Updates from February of 2024 indicated that Gardella was suing Doherty and Kongg over the incident, alleging assault, battery, negligence, and emotional distress. Kongg had been featured in news reports in the past for knocking out a female fan while working security for rapper DaBaby. In 2019, the latter performed at the Free Water Block Party in New Orleans, and roughly 30 minutes into his set, jumped into the crowd. Fans mobbed him, and the rapper struggled to make his way back to the stage through the rowdy concert goers, with Kongg escorting him. At one point, a fan repeatedly tried to touch DaBaby, in spite of him pushing her off, and appeared to hit him in the head. Kongg then punched her 3 times in quick succession, flattening her. She was out cold for about a minute. The woman was treated at the scene before being taken away in an ambulance, and the concert was shut down. In a subsequent social media post, Kongg maintained that he was only doing his job, adding that he thought the fan he'd struck was a man. Be sure to stick around right after number 1 to watch our episode about when falling from grace goes wrong, if you haven't seen that one yet. Number 1. Garrett Bruno. Leading up to the fall of 2024, influencer Garrett Bruno had amassed over 60,000 followers to his Instagram by posting photos of his globe-trotting adventures. The 33-year-old, who often posed shirtless to display his physique, lived with his boyfriend in the area of West Hollywood in Los Angeles. On October the 10th of 2024, Bruno was traveling north on North Spalding Avenue, a few blocks from his home. He was reportedly speeding on a 25-mile-per-hour restricted residential road while behind the wheel of his Ford Escape SUV. The influencer then ran a red light and slammed into the side of a Ford Expedition in which 83-year-old Esther Aboab was traveling with her husband Joe. The impact launched the second vehicle across 4 lanes of traffic and through the gate of an underground garage. Photos taken at the scene following the arrival of the emergency services showed Bruno covered in blood while handcuffed to a gurney. Esther was taken to a local hospital where she passed away. Joe, to whom she'd been married for over 50 years, was left bedridden and requiring multiple surgeries after suffering a number of serious injuries, including broken ankles. A few days after the wreck, Bruno was recorded by DailyMail.com while he was out walking his dog. The man, who exhibited cuts and bruises to his face and body, was captured using a small spoon to reach into a black vial, taking out a white powder and sniffing it. As the footage sparked outrage online, the travel influencer took to Instagram and claimed that the powder was ketamine, which had been prescribed as a treatment for anxiety and depression. He also referenced the car crash and wrote, "I am very sorry for the loss of this life, but the cause of the accident is still under investigation," telling his followers that the crash in which he'd been involved and the white powder incident had occurred on different days. In mid-November, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department stormed the $1.1 million rental bungalow where Bruno lived. The influencer, however, was not on the premises. His boyfriend told law enforcement that Bruno was in a coma after suffering a scooter accident on October the 25th. He was reportedly riding the two-wheeler without a helmet when he fell and smacked his head on the pavement. As of the latest updates on the matter, Bruno remained in serious condition at the hospital. For the accident that resulted in Esther's death, he faced charges of second-degree murder, reckless driving on a highway causing bodily injury, and battery over an alleged attack on a peace officer. Number 7. Laura Buckingham. Former Marine Laura Buckingham was sentenced to 10 years of probation in the spring of 2019 for trying to orchestrate her ex-boyfriend's murder. Leading up to February of 2016, the Tennessee native had been embroiled in a bitter custody battle with her ex, Bradley Sutherland. 29-year-old Buckingham, a respected veteran with multiple tours of duty, hid her rage under a facade of domesticity through her work as a baker. She at one point was pictured on the cover of Southern Indiana Living, rolling dough with her toddler child in her lap. In February, Buckingham was living in Kingston with her boyfriend and fellow Marine, Joseph Chamblin. His time in the Corps had been marked by controversy, as he'd been one of 4 Marines videotaped urinating on the corpses of Taliban fighters in Afghanistan in 2011. The 17-second clip went viral and caused outrage, resulted in Chamblin being court-martialed and demoted. Buckingham told the former sniper that she wanted Sutherland to go away and asked if he knew someone who could help. Chamblin wanted no part in the plot, and after recording a few conversations with Buckingham on the matter, went to the authorities. The woman was then introduced to a potential hitman who was actually an agent of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. Buckingham agreed to pay $30,000 for him to kill Sutherland and handed over part of the money. Prior to Buckingham's arrest on February the 24th, law enforcement in Louisville asked Sutherland to fake his death as part of the investigation. The man staged his own murder in a parking garage, an experience he later described as traumatic, comparing the entire ordeal to a Hollywood movie. Photos of the mock crime scene were sent to Buckingham, who then paid the undercover hitman the rest of the money. The woman, who'd once turned down a modeling career to join the Marines, pleaded guilty to solicitation for first-degree murder in December of 2018. As reflected by court records, Buckingham blamed post-traumatic stress disorder from her service in Iraq and Afghanistan for taking out the contract. Number 6. Lamore Whitehead. on May the 22nd of 2022 in what was reported as an unprovoked attack. 25-year-old Andrew Abdullah gunned down Goldman Sachs employee Daniel Enriquez on the platform of a Manhattan-bound Q train. Abdullah later turned up at a legal aid office in Tribeca, and his surrender was negotiated by Lamore Whitehead, founder of the Leaders of Tomorrow International Church. Whitehead showed up to the 5th Precinct in a luxury Rolls-Royce and wearing a designer blazer. The high-profile case brought attention to the lavish lifestyle, dubious dealings and checkered past of the man whom some media outlets had nicknamed the Bling Bling Bishop. In the mid-2000s, he'd operated an extensive fraud and identity theft operation through which he'd taken out over $2 million in loans. The money was primarily used to purchase Range Rover cars. More than 50 victims from states including Tennessee, Georgia, and New York had had their identities stolen. Whitehead served 5 years at the Sing Sing Correctional Facility and was released in 2013. Within a year, he founded his ministry, registered as a for-profit business and marked by various shady practices. Whitehead claimed to have started a youth mentorship program with the collaboration of the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office and the NYPD. Both institutions refuted his claims, with the former sending him a cease and desist letter. While ostentatiously displaying his wealth in public, the bishop was sued in 2011 by parishioner Pauline Anderson, who claimed he'd stolen her life savings after promising to help her purchase a home. Whitehead at the time was running for Brooklyn Borough President and allegedly told Anderson he'd used her $90,000 as a donation towards his campaign. Leading up to 2022, the bishop stated he'd never solicited funds, even though his ministry's website had a donate button. For years, Whitehead had maintained a close relationship with New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Some suspected that it enabled the bishop to maintain the appearance of functionality for his church, in lieu of a noticeable fall from grace. In July of 2022, Whitehead and his wife were robbed at gunpoint of roughly $1 million in jewelry during their church's services. Many were unsympathetic to the bishop's plight, particularly given his constant flaunting and the refocused attention on the Anderson suit. Number 5. Rebecca Warren. Close to midnight on December the 26th of 2019, Michigan officers initiated a traffic stop in Auburn Hills after they'd received multiple calls about a Jeep Cherokee moving erratically. The driver was a visibly intoxicated woman who, through her slurred speech and stumbling movements, revealed that she was a U.S. Senator. 48-year-old Michigan Representative Rebecca Warren failed her field sobriety test as she was unable to walk in a straight line or recite the alphabet. She refused to submit to a breathalyzer test, but a search warrant later led to her blood being withdrawn at a local hospital. Warren was revealed to be nearly 3 times over the limit. She was subsequently charged under Michigan's super drunk law, which imposed severe penalties for drivers found with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.17 or greater. During the arrest, which was captured on dashcam video, Warren told officers that she was going to be the most famous arrest they ever made, that they were going to be on TV, and called the incident career-ending. The latter statement came to fruition. In February of the following year, Warren pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of misdemeanor driving while intoxicated. She was sentenced to 1 year of probation and 10 days of community service. The incident severely affected her political presence, and she didn't seek re-election in 2020. Number 4. Dale Massad. Port Richey Mayor Dale Massad resigned from his position on February the 22nd of 2019, the day after a police raid had gone wrong at his Central Florida home. 68-year-old Massad was a known drug user with a history of violence, his most recent arrest having occurred for a domestic incident. Massad's troubles with the law hadn't derailed the former laser surgeon's political career. However, he was then wanted by the authorities for practicing medicine without a license, following revelations that he was still seeing patients at his home in spite of having given up his license in the early 1990s. A SWAT team thus went to his address on February the 21st to execute a search warrant, As later reported by Pasco County Sheriff Chris Noko, Mossad was known to own multiple guns. Given his pattern of aggressive and threatening behavior, the SWAT team involved in the raid knew, according to Noko, they were headed into a high-pressure situation. Mossad fired 2 shots at the officers when they entered his house. Fortunately, no serious injuries were reported, and the gun-toting mayor was taken into custody. Mossad later tried to pursue Florida's Stand Your Ground law, claiming he'd thought the officers were actually home intruders. He was charged with multiple counts of attempted first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer. Mossad struck a plea deal and admitted aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer, a weapons charge, resisting arrest with violence, and practicing medicine without a license. The disgraced mayor was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Number 3. Ike Ekweremadu. On May the 5th of 2022, a homeless man in his early 20s went to London's Staines police station, claiming he'd been brought to England for his organs to be harvested. An investigation was launched and traced the allegations to high-ranking Nigerian politician Ike Ekweremadu, aged 60, and his wife, Beatrice Nowanika. The former was a member of the Nigerian Senate, who'd served as its deputy president for 3 consecutive terms. The unnamed victim, a man from Lagos, had been taken to the UK on arrangements made by Dr. Obina Obita from Southwark, South London, specifically for his organs to be harvested. As reported by prosecutors, Ike and his wife had planned to have the man's kidney removed so that it could be given to their daughter. He refused to consent to the procedure after undergoing tests at the Royal Free Hospital in Hampstead, northwest London. The victim also revealed that his treatment by the Ekweremadus following his refusal had been akin to slavery. He was eventually able to flee the house where he'd been kept and was homeless for 3 days before turning up at the police station. Ike and Beatrice were arrested at Heathrow Airport on June the 21st after arriving on a flight from Turkey. During their bail hearing in July, they denied any wrongdoing and that any exploitation had occurred. 50-year-old Obita was charged under the Modern Slavery Act for arranging or facilitating travel of another person with a view to exploitation and conspiring together with Ike to arrange or facilitate the travel of another person with a view to exploitation. The 3 defendants were set to go to trial for their alleged crimes as of the latest updates available on the case. Number 2. Wisdom Awoot. A young member of Grammy-nominated rapper DaBaby's entourage was arrested for attempted murder in early June of 2021 following his involvement in a shooting in Ocean Drive, Miami Beach. 21-year-old Wisdom Awoot, a promising rapper signed to DaBaby's billion-dollar Baby Entertainment label, was arrested and charged alongside Christopher Urena, aged 29. An argument had occurred between the latter and a group of men along the strip of Art Deco hotels and restaurants. It culminated with him brandishing a handgun and opening fire on them, with Awoot following suit. 2 people near the Prime 112 restaurant were struck by stray bullets. Both of the unnamed victims were taken to the Jackson Memorial Hospital, where one was treated and sent home while the other remained in critical condition and was reported as paralyzed. DaBaby was held for questioning in the shooting's aftermath, but was later released while Awoot and Urena were kept behind bars, awaiting the legal proceedings associated with the case. Number 1. Ron Jeremy. Ronald Jeremy Hyatt, professionally known as Ron Jeremy, was at one point ranked by Adult Video News as the #1 adult film star of all time and broke the record for most appearances with over 2,000 starring roles. Jeremy was also highly protected by the industry and took advantage of his position to assault countless women. While prevalent in the adult performer community, his abusive behavior went largely undetected in the mainstream media. His popularity kept growing, amassing millions of fans through his goofy comedic persona, and he raked in millions of dollars through various ventures backed by his position as the king of adult entertainment. Then in 2017, a YouTube video posted by webcam model Ginger Banks detailed the many accusations against Jeremy. It triggered an investigation by the LA Times, and before long the authorities followed suit. On August the 25th of 2021, Jeremy was indicted on a total of 30 counts of assault against 21 women. Fellow actress Ginger Lynn was among his first alleged victims. She and Jeremy were at a Hawaiian hotel in 1983 while they were filming a movie together. Lynn was at the time engaged to a co-star and celebrating her 21st birthday on the beach. When she went to change in a bathroom, Jeremy followed her inside and forced himself upon her. Adding to her ordeal the following day, Lynn had to shoot a scene with her abuser. In 2000, Jeremy assaulted British adult actress Leanne Young in a crowded nightclub with multiple witnesses. The attitude that they'd had towards the incident reflected how untouchable Jeremy was at the time when someone told Young, "That's just what Ron does." As Jeremy's fame grew, so did the brazenness of his attacks, with some openly occurring at fan conventions or various bars and nightclubs, predominantly in West Hollywood. His victims, many of whom were in the adult industry, were hesitant to speak out because of Jeremy's power and influence, while also fearing that they wouldn't be believed given their profession. The disgraced performer fully denied the accusations, claiming his victims had buyer's remorse. As of the latest updates on the case, the trial against 69-year-old Jeremy was suspended in March of 2022, pending a mental health evaluation, as he'd become incoherent in court and didn't recognize his attorney. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have your IQ increase to genius level or get 20 million followers on any chosen social media platform? Let us know in the comments section below.